thinking of dividing his investment portfolio into two stocks, stock A and B. Okay, so stock A return 5%, risk 1%. Stock B, the return is how much? 10% and risk 5%, standard deviation 5%. Now the correlation between the two stocks on 5. Now suppose you invest a fraction of your funds in A, find the expected return and risk of the portfolio. Now this is very simple, because this part we have done many times. Now it's part B that's difficult to do. Part B, draw the risk and return of this portfolio. Okay, this one is a little bit hard to do, so now I just look at part A first. Let's see how to do part A. Now the information given in part A is only 5% return, the risk standard deviation 1%. Stock B, information given here. Return for 10%, risk 5%. Correlation coefficient given 0.5. Okay, so with this, we can now solve the problem. Now first, how to find the return of the portfolio? So find the weighted average return. Now the return comes from A and B. So multiply by the weightage alpha in A, 1 minus alpha in B. So the one is standard. Now but the only difference now is we have all the numbers to solve. So the numbers, because we are told that what's the return of stock A? 5%. Yeah. What's the return from B? 10%. So here 10. So therefore the expected return is 10 minus 5 alpha. Okay? Any question? Now how to find the variance of the portfolio? Now to find the variance of the portfolio, obviously it's just a formula, right? The variance comes from two sources. The variance from A and B. So in other words, the variance from A and B. But we do have the answer here. What's the variance of A equal to? Now variance is the square of the standard deviation. Right. So what's the standard deviation of A? 1%. Square of 1 is still 1. Okay. What's the variance of stock B? Well, we are given the standard deviation of stock B is how much? For B is 5%. So the variance square is therefore 25. Now what other information are we given? Correlation coefficient. Correlation coefficient was given as what? 0.5. And so this is 0.5. Okay, the rest of the number are obvious. So it's all given to you. For example, the standard deviation of A is 1. That's why here is 1. Standard deviation of B is 5. That's why here is 5. Alright, so that's it. Okay, so from here, we have all the numbers to solve for the variance of the portfolio, therefore is this. Do you need to change to decimal? Do you need? If you keep as percent, just keep all as percent. Understand? There's no need for you to convert to decimal. In other words, 5%, right? Here 5%, some ask me, is it better that I change to 0.05? 0.05? Don't need. Just keep all as percent. Okay, that will suffice to do. You should get the same answer. Okay? Whether you convert to decimal or you keep as percent, the answer will change. Okay? So if you keep as percent, then you will just end up with this 6%. If the number turns out to be 6, then it's 6%. Okay? If you keep as decimal, then the number will turn out to be 0.06. That's all. Okay, so from here, how to draw the graph? I think now we have a small problem here. Because in order to draw the graph, what's the problem? Now the graph is this way, right? Return versus risk. the graph is postulated this way. Return versus standard deviation. So how to draw this graph? Risk versus return. So that means the graph is postulated in terms of R versus rho, the standard deviation. But, wait, by the way, how do I get a graph? How do people draw a graph? Where does all this graph come from? You see a graph everywhere. Where does the graph come from? From a mathematical equation. Why? Every graph that you see comes from an equation. You wish you use it to plot the graph. Give me the equation of this kind. You can draw a graph with a mathematical equation. You cannot draw the line. Right now. So what's the equation of this line? Okay. So I think the closest we can see is this. Yeah. So for these two stocks, we do have the variance, and of course if I square root, I get the standard deviation right. But this is only half of the graph. The graph is postulated in terms of standard deviation versus what? Return. Now, to get standard deviation, I have no problem. I just square root this, and so this becomes standard deviation right. But what I do not have is the return. What I want is standard deviation versus what? Return R. But this is not. This gives you standard deviation versus alpha, the fraction of the money that you put in the stock. So that means you have to think of a way how to postulate this in terms of what? Standard deviation versus return R. Okay, but that's not so difficult because the reason why is because you can see this alpha, fortunately, is related to R. Alright? And because it's related to R, so that's how you can solve the problem. What's their relationship? R versus alpha. It's related in this manner. Agree? So it's related in this manner. So how is alpha related to R? Okay, so luckily we can solve from here. Let's see.